Hello, today we'll do the poem A Psalm of Life by the American poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a poet who lived in the beginning of the 19th century, and he was a teacher of ancient Greek at Harvard College, now known as Harvard University. He was a mentor of Henry David Thoreau, one of the famous transcendentalists of America, who created the Bibles by which present day America has been formed. So, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a mentor or a tutor to the philosophers who laid down the Bibles of present day America. So the poet says, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow says in this poem that we should uh, be active and not to be passive. He tells us not to be passive, and activity is something which helps us to achieve what we want in life. So he says in the first stanza, tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. So to many people in life is meaningless. They try and they strive and they persevere, but many fall short of their goal. So the poet asks people not to tell him mournfully, very sadly or sorrowfully or with tears in their eyes. He asks them not to tell him that life is an empty dream. The poet says, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. So the person who slumbers, who is not active, but who is passive, who relies on others to do the work for him, such a person is akin to a lifeless person. And the poet says that things are not what they seem. So he tells us here that often we face difficulties, often we face obstacles that seem to be insuperable, obstacles that cannot be overcome seemingly, but these are nothing but opportunities in disguise. So the poet tells us that whenever we meet a difficulty, we must use it as an opportunity and not be passive, but rather we should be active. So the poet continues, life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. So the one thing we have that is real is our life. And life is real and life is earnest. Earnest means it's a serious business, and the end of life is not to die, is not to go into the grave, but uh, the poet says, dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. So these two, this sentence, dust thou art, to dust returnest, is part of the funeral prayer of the Christians, and it says that we return to dust when we die, and we are formed from the dust. So The poet is saying that we are not mere clay, we are not mere dust, because we have a part of us within us, which is a soul, which animates us, which gives us life, which gives us our interests, our desires, and our motivations for action, with which we can do what we can, what we are meant to do on earth. So the poet says that we are not merely dust, and we should make use of this life to achieve our aims and goals. The poet continues, not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. So some people think that the enjoyment of life is the goal of life, and other people feel that life is sorrowful. What the poet tells us, it is not only to enjoy ourselves, nor to feel sad. It is not the destined end, and neither is it the way of life. But what we should be doing is to act, to take some action at each moment, so that tomorrow we'll find ourselves closer to the goal than we were today. So, uh, we must reach our goal step by step, little by little, with gradual progression. So, the poet continues, art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. So the art that is spoken of in this stanza is the art of life. And the art of life takes a long time to achieve, uh, but time is moving swiftly, and though we are brave, our hearts are like muffled drums, and we're moving day by day closer to the grave. So, in the broad words broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. So the poet says that life is like a battlefield, and the battlefield is a broad battlefield. It's a wide battlefield, and we are like soldiers who are living in bivouacs or tents on the battlefield, and as such, we should not be like dumb driven cattle, cattle which are driven here and there by the herdsmen. We should not be dumb driven cattle. Rather, we must be heroic in facing the adversities and the trials of life. The poet says, trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act, act in the living present, heart within and God overhead. So, once we achieve a certain goal, we should not rest on the victory, and we should not think that the future will be present, and neither should we worry about what has happened, about all the difficulties we faced in the past. So we should not trust the future, nor should we uh, ruminate over the past, but the present moment is the moment when we can act. So we cannot live in the future, we cannot live in the past, but we are living in the present. So we should take some action in the living present, and we must be brave, and our hearts must be stout and strong, and we should pray to God overhead to send us His grace so that we can achieve our goals. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. So all the great men of the past who have influenced us, and their lives and their works all remind us that we too can make our lives sublime or beautiful, and by after being inspired by the lives of great men, we also do our work, we contribute our bit to society, and we leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. So we leave behind our work which will help others. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. So whatever contributions we make in life to in in the way of our duty, whatever contributions we make to society, will help others, and perhaps another person who is sailing or passing over a solemn passage or sea passage of life, who is being shipwrecked, who is being beaten by life's problems, who is forlorn, who is sad. Perhaps such a person will take note of our work. Perhaps our work will give him heart again. Perhaps he'll regain his sense of purpose. Perhaps he'll be emboldened. Perhaps he will feel rejuvenated after learning of the work we have done. Perhaps it will help another. And so we must help each other through our work, says the poet. So the poet says in the final stanza, let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. So the poet tells us that we must be up and doing our work, and we must be aware that life is not a bed of roses, that there will certainly be difficulties, but it is within us that we have the strength to face the obstacles which life puts in our way. And so, with this thought in mind, we can go on achieving, and we can go on pursuing our goals in life. We can learn to labor, we must learn to work, and we must learn to wait for the fruits of our work to be present to us. So this is a psalm of life by the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, which is a call to action for people around the world. So, thank you.